Welcome to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. I'm Mike Calabrese, joined today by Sean Zerillo and Collin Whitchurch to break down Tuesday's slate in the bigs. We're going to go through our best bets, our favorite underdogs, the rest of their card, get into some walk props from Collin, and also because it is Tuesday, that means Grant is digging in at the batter's box, swinging for the fences with his dinger card for today here in Major League Baseball. But before we get into any of the picks, I have some high-level questions for you guys. I appreciate that you're both here, so you're going to get two cracks at this question. We're about halfway through the first half of the season here, a little bit beyond that point, and I think it's time that we start cutting bait on some of those preseason expectations, some of those futures picks that haven't quite panned out. I'm going to ask you individually here, one answer from each of you. In terms of a team that you were looking at in the preseason that you thought would either be in the playoffs or certainly right in the mix down the stretch, who do you think is fully cooked and not in a good way here in late May? This rules out teams like the Rockies and the White Sox and the Marlins. We knew that they were going to struggle and they were essentially going to be focused on 2026 and further out. But there was a lot of teams that had either had large payrolls. They were coming off successful 2024s with postseason runs of their own. Which team do you view as just like not clicking and it's beyond just a slump? There's structural issues that are unlikely to be fixed. Sean, I'll kick it to you first with your thoughts on this.
The easy answer is the Orioles. I don't know if, looking at the standings quick, if there's another team that I viewed as a potential playoff team that I would completely cross off at this point. But maybe just the AL East in general, I guess, is playing significantly worse than we expected coming into the season. I mean, there's only one team above 500 in the AL East right now. That's the New York Yankees. The Red Sox are 24 and 25. Everybody else is sub 500, and the Orioles are 15 and 31. So it seems impossible that the Orioles could make a comeback and get themselves back into the race at this point, considering especially the construct of their roster, the lack of pitching, and their offense has just been absolutely abysmal. You fire Brandon Hyde. Derek Shelton ends up getting let go by the Pirates. The Rockies fired their manager as well. Really none of their faults. They didn't build the rosters that are on the field that are severely deficient in certain areas. So unfortunate to see those guys lose their jobs. But yeah, I'd say the Orioles at 15 and 31, there's virtually no path back for them at this point. They're going to have to look ahead to 2026. And the only other team I would have said that I liked coming into the season that has maybe performed below expectations is the Rays or the Red Sox. Like the Blue Jays are playing about to their win total. The Rays are playing about to their win total. I thought they might be a little bit better. They're not hitting at all. It's the Red Sox that are severely underperforming expectations. And there were projections out there even after the Bregman signing that said the Red Sox were a value bet to miss the playoffs. Maybe should have listened to those at this point, considering there's a potential now that the AL East only gets one playoff team. We talked about the AL East getting three, stealing two from the Central not getting more than one. Well, now at this point, it does look like the AL East is just going to get one.
All right, we're cracking a natty bow and pouring one out for the O's. Do you agree with that, Colin? Is there any other team that even belongs in this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, the O's that's the team. Every time Mike Elias talks, it's the epitome of the I think you should leave. We're all trying to figure out the guy who did this meme. They're a game better than the White Sox right now. And it's funny, Sean talked about the AL East weakness. The AL East has one team above 500. The perpetually bad AL Central has four teams above 500 right now. And maybe some of that is just the bastardization of them beating up on themselves. But yeah, the Orioles just don't seem to have a path forward. They refuse to give a starting pitcher a multi-year contract. You know, the Corbin Burns thing was never going to work out, whatever. He didn't want to be there. But, like, the fact that they were giving innings and they're still giving innings to guys like Charlie Morton, who is, just absolutely totally cooked. And it's very, it's easy for me to see this through White Sox colored lenses because I just had my team go through this exact thing. They go through this really long multi-year rebuild, build up one of the best farms in baseball. And if those guys aren't hitting their ceiling and you're not supplementing that roster with enough talent around it to survive, then this is what you run into. Adley Rutschman isn't performing like people thought he was going to perform. Gunnar Henderson got off to a little bit of a slow start. Some of these guys aren't hitting. They were counting on guys like Heston Kierstead. They still haven't given Kobe Mayo a shot. And things just have gone south. I would say, the only other team that would be in this conversation for me personally, probably not in the grand scope of baseball is the Texas Rangers, which is funny to say. They're 2 games above 500 right now. And I only say that because I thought the Rangers were like head and shoulders the best team in the AL West coming into the season. I saw them as significantly better than Houston and significantly better than Seattle. That has not been the case. Seattle seems like they're the class of this division right now. I don't know if their offense is going to hold up. But Texas has looked much more mediocre than I expected. I wouldn't say that it's not anywhere near the level of Baltimore where it's like they're out of the race. They're very much in the race. They could still end up being a playoff team. They're just not as good of a team right now sitting here on May 20th as I expected them to be before the season started.
Well, speaking of the Rangers, let's stay there for their matchup with the Yankees because both of your best bets come from this game. And it starts with Patrick Corbin. This career year continues for him kind of out of nowhere. He just struck out 9, albeit against the Rockies. And a big reason for that is he's basically abandoned his fastball this season. He's gone almost exclusively with his breaking stuff. If you look at his slider, his cutter, his sinker, it accounts for 87% of his pitch mix. Now he faces off against Will Warren, who's rebounded from a slow start himself. You have 2 separate reads on this game between Sean and Collin. I'm going to start with the first 5 innings here. Collin, walk me through which side you like.
Yeah, this isn't just a straight bet against Patrick Corbin. I know we did a lot of that over the last couple of years, and if you did that this year, you're struggling a little bit because, as you said, Mike, he's been pretty good this year. Downright competent since joining the Rangers rotation. It is a bet, however, against Patrick Corbin pitching at Yankee Stadium and against the Yankees offense. And what they do against left-handed pitching. For all the tricks Corbin has been pulling this year, one thing he's not doing anymore is getting batters to hit the ball on the ground. A lot of that probably has to do with the pitch mix. But in his prime, Corbin was inducing ground balls at about a 50% rate. Toward the end of his Washington career, as he was just getting beaten into the ground, it was in the mid-40s, 44 to 46% range. Right now, his ground ball rate is 37.5%. He's pitching at Yankee Stadium tonight. Corbin's also avoided hard contact at an unsustainable rate so far this year, 31.6% hard hit rate right now compared to a career average of about 40%. He's only allowed 8 barrels this year in 114 batted ball events. And his DRA, Baseball Prospectus' version of FIP, essentially, it's 1.4 runs higher than his ERA. So a lot of credit to Corbin and what he's done to remain a major league pitcher. I think with his contract ending with the Nationals last year, most of us thought that was the end of Patrick Corbin's major league career. It hasn't been. He's reinvented himself a little bit, but I do think a lot of it is smoke and mirrors, at least the amount of success he's seen so far this year. I think the Yankees offense will bring him back down to earth today. They're the best offense in baseball against left-handed pitching. Patrick Corbin allowing a lot of fly balls at Yankee Stadium is a recipe for disaster. I think this runs slightly counter to Sean's bet. We can still hit both of our bets here with me fading Corbin and the bet Sean's about to get into. But I have the Yankees first 5 money line at about minus 190 is my cutoff range. I got them minus 176 at FanDuel right before recording. So I like the Yankees first 5 of the money line.
Sean, for your total under 9, how worried are you about those fly balls potentially leaving the park against Corbin here?
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's a concern anytime you're betting on Patrick Corbin is him imploding. And at Yankee Stadium, and Collin mentioning the increased fly ball rate, decreased ground ball rate, obviously going to be concerning the Yankees number 1 or number 2, both against righties and lefties. And no matter how you slice up the splits, season long, last 30 days, just in May, the Yankees are still like at a 135 diversity plus. Basically, by every split, there's no way to split it up and find, oh yeah, the Yankees are cold over the past 2 weeks. They've been basically the same the entire season, even losing guys, playing slightly different groups in their lineup. But I think Patrick Corbin actually can sustain this a little bit more than Collin can. So you go back to last year when he started scrapping the fastballs and going a little bit more aggressively with the cutter. He's now been doing this for 15 starts, and he has a sub-4 ERA, 3.98 ERA with a 4.26 FIP and a 3.94 expected FIP and a 13.7% strikeout minus walk rate, which is better than the major league average. So I actually do think with the cutter, Corbin can pitch closer to league average, not be a league average pitcher, but pitch much closer to league average than he was the past few years when he was a replacement level starter throwing all fastballs. Even the pitching plus rating, his pitch modeling metrics, 102 pitching plus, he's never been above 99 in the pitch tracking era. I think we have 7-8 years of data with Stuff Plus ratings, pitch modeling metrics. He's never been above 100. He's at 102 this season. Now, a lot of this projection and a lot of my bet on the under is not just betting on Patrick Corbin to be better than the market. These are also two very strong defensive teams. In fact, Texas is number 1 in defensive runs saved, number 4 now, it's above average. Yankees are 9th and 15th, or 9th and 20th respectively. I'm going to ignore that 20th number because I think what a lot of people lose in defensive metrics, outs above average does not track catcher defense and does not track pitcher defense as closely as defensive run saved does. And if you think defensive run saved is just a bunch of people sitting in a room watching plays going, that's a run saved, that's not how it works. It's fractional differences based off of plays over expectations. So say, for example, a play is worth half a run, right, based on the batted ball trajectory, the expectation of the inning. It's weighting not only scouting data of people actually watching the play and saying, hey, this guy took a bad route, hey, this guy overthrew the cutoff man, allowed somebody to advance an extra base, but then it's overlaying that with StatCast data. So I tend to trust DRS a little bit more. Not that OAA isn't overlaying with StatCast data and whatnot, but it's not accounting for catcher defense and pitcher defense as deeply. That's an area where the Yankees really excel, especially compared to other teams. In defensive runs saved, they're above average at both positions. That's actually the only spot where the Rangers are below average. So the Rangers much better positionally in the field, spot, playing on an island defensively. I think the Yankees are much better organizationally, putting their players in the right position. Their lineup this year is much more optimal as well compared to what they were throwing out last year with Judge in center field, et cetera. So big upgrades defensively for both teams. Seager not currently in the Rangers lineup. The Yankees lineup is great, but the Rangers lineup has been basically bottom 5 all year against right-handed pitching. Without Seager in there, that's a big hit for them. And I think Will Warren is better than he's pitched as well. He is an ERA above 4, an expected ERA above 4 as well. But his strikeout minus walk rate is 18%, which is closer to the number 2 level starting pitchers. His BOT ERA is around 3.5. He's got 3 above average pitches, a sweeper, a sinker, a curveball that all grade out really well. And he does keep a ball on the ground. He's about a 45% ground ball rate. So I'm actually very high on Will Warren going forward. I think Corbin is better than what he's done in the past few years. I think going back to mid-August of last year with the new pitch mix, you really see the results. And then the weather. Wind's blowing in today, 65 degrees at first pitch, so not particularly cold, but 60-degree feel on the field with 6 to 7 mile an hour winds blowing in from left field. So that knocked my projection down from about 8.8 on a normal day to 8.3 today. So under 9 up to minus 115, my favorite bet for Tuesday's slate. We'll see if it ends up cashing. It's the only bet we cashed yesterday was the best bet. So hopefully we get a few more across the line today.
The WNBA season is tipped off, and if you're an Action Pro subscriber, our brand new WNBA projections are now available in the Action Network app. So whether you're looking for an edge betting on WNBA sides, totals, or player props, Action Pro projections are the perfect tool for your toolbox this season. If you aren't an Action Pro subscriber yet, you can get $20 off an annual subscription right now. Just visit actionnetwork.com/pro to sign up. That's $20 off an annual subscription price at actionnetwork.com/pro. All right, we turn now to your favorite dogs. We'll get started here with yours, Sean, in terms of Arizona against the LA Dodgers. And I like the big swing in this spot, particularly if you can get it close to 2-1. Yes, Yamamoto's ERA is hovering around 2, but this very same Arizona lineup just scored 5 runs on him, and they were only struck out 4 times in that matchup. That's a season high for him in terms of runs allowed, and he tied a season low in terms of strikeouts. So they had discipline at the dish, and they were able to take advantage of them when there were runners in scoring position. And after a homer-free April, he's given up 3 bombs in his last 2 starts. So a little bit of a pause to kind of evaluate where he is in terms of his race potentially to be up for some hardware at the end of the season. I know that you're someone who's been a little bit middle of the road on Yamamoto this season and trying to pick a spot or 2 to play against him. How many innings do you think we need from Ryan Nelson on the other side to make this work? 3, 4 innings? And if so, will that be enough if he can, silence the Dodgers bats early in this matchup?
Yeah, I don't think Nelson is going to go more than 2 times through the lineup. He's been stretching back out from the bullpen to the rotation, pitching the rotation a little bit at the end of last year. but he hasn't thrown more than 70 pitches in the season, and he didn't throw more than 55 in his last start. So I don't think he turns over the lineup more than twice. He hasn't faced more than 14 batters in a game this year. Like, it's probably 1.5 times through the lineup for Nelson, and then the D-backs playing bullpen the rest of the way. And that is why I like the over in this game, even more so than the D-backs money line. I made the D-backs about plus 180. It's just starting to get up to plus 200. One book finally put up a plus 200. That's what I'd want in order to bet Arizona, but I actually prefer the over here for numerous reasons. One being Nelson can't go that deep, and the Arizona pen is still missing its two best arms, AJ Puck and Justin Martinez. And with their two best arms down, especially with Puck down, they do not have anybody to get left-handed hitters out. In May, this has been a league average bullpen, but they've been even worse against left-handed hitters. They're 23rd in expected FIP against lefties, 19th in strikeout minus walk rate. So when you get to Freeman, Ohtani, and Muncy, and Michael Conforto, second, third, fourth time through, you have no weapons to counteract those guys aside from Jalen Beeks. So I'm very worried about Arizona's bullpen here. That said, Yamamoto, I think, is declining in season. His first start of the year, I think you can kind of throw out, being overseas, pitching in front of more familiar fans, maybe just a little jacked up, but he was throwing closer to 97 miles an hour. But you take his April average compared to his May average, he's down about a tick, and it's basically declined in every start. His sinker's also down 1.1 miles an hour from April to May, down from 94.9 to 93.8. His splitter is down nearly 2 ticks from 91 to 89.2. And as I said, his fastball down a tick as well as four-seamer. In addition, the stuff plus going down. Pitching plus down from 105 to 101. Bot ERA up from 3.75 to 4.4. So I do think decreased velocity, wearing down maybe even early in the season, coming off of injuries last year. The Dodgers dealing with several injuries to their rotation. It's starting to get concerning from a pitching perspective for Los Angeles, especially with so many teams creeping up on them in the division, sitting so close within the divisional race. Their rotation has completely fallen apart. And it seemed like they would overcome the pitching woes, depth woes that they had last year with all the guys that they signed. Everybody's gotten hurt. It really hasn't mattered. And, all the depth guys that they had coming into last year are kind of hurt too. River Ryan is on the IL. And I know Kershaw just came back. He looked terrible. So I do think the Dodgers have significant reasons to be concerned about holding on to this division, considering their entire rotation could end up on the IL if Yamamoto is in fact trending down. And based on the velocity numbers and based on the pitch modeling metrics and based on the results of him getting hit harder, it does seem like he's a worse pitcher, a lesser pitcher in May than he was in April. He's just not throwing nearly as hard. So yeah, Arizona plus 200 or better on the money line, projected at plus 180. And then I make this total about 9.75, the over 9 to minus 120. Should mention too, very good over umpire here as well. Edwin Moscoso, career 63% to the over, 80, 47, and 7. It's worth about a 2% boost to me personally, based upon strikeout, walk numbers, other underlying indicators that I have for umpires. But he's been phenomenal to the over thus far. And I think it is indicative of him being more hitter friendly.
You mentioned that the Dodgers should be concerned, or it's getting concerning. Everything's relative. You could be, the Pirates, who are bottoming out offensively, 3 runs in their last 27 innings. They've now lost 6 of 7 and have led after 5 innings just once since May 11th. But the good news is that Bailey Falter is on the bump here, and he's been dealing this month. In his last 3 starts, 16 and 2/3 innings, just 1 earned run allowed across that stretch. His four-seamer, which he throws over 40% of the time, has been his go-to pitch. It's been working great for him. At 6'4", he's got elite extension. That fastball is getting on hitters really quickly. So, Collin, bringing you in here, you're going to go against the momentum here. You're going to say it's a good buy low spot for the Pirates with Falter starting here. If he gives you 5 good innings, do you think you can get anything out of this Buccos lineup?
Yeah, that's the question. And I'm glad you mentioned concerns, because there are plenty of concerns here. Obviously, when you're betting on the Pirates, there's also concerns about, the state of your mental health or whatever. Kevin Roth, our friend over at Roto Grinders, has significant weather concerns about this game. Looks like there's going to be rain in the area for the first 2 to 3 hours. See how long they want to wait it out, or if they play a doubleheader. And then there are concerns about the movement of this line. I bet this at plus 110 when I wrote this up for the pod. It's dropped to plus 105. I think it was at plus 120 overnight or something. And so it might be minus money by the time we get to recording. Maybe this won't even be an underdog bet. We'll see. It's not exactly that I have a ton of faith in Bailey Falter, if we're being completely honest. But I'm generally looking to fade the Reds offense against left-handed pitching. So this is a good spot to do that. Cincinnati has basically a league average offense against right-handed pitching, but it's about 20 points of WRC plus below league average against lefties. The only regular who's considered above average hitter against lefties this year, Santiago Espinal, who's actually been pretty good for them. So Falter early is going to neutralize or send guys to the bench like TJ Friedel, the red hot Will Benson, who just won NL Player of the Week, and Gavin Lux. The Reds' one real superstar offensively, obviously, Ellie De La Cruz is a switch hitter, but he's about 200 points of OPS worse against lefties than he is against righties. The counter, of course, as you mentioned, Mike, is that the Reds are going to struggle to score, but have you seen this Pirates offense? Yes, I have seen this Pirates offense, and it's ugly. But I'm also a non-believer in Nick Martinez. Fangraphs advanced stats have him right around the 3.66 ERA he's put up. Baseball Prospectus has his DRA more than a run worse, 4.76. He's never been much of a strikeout guy to begin with, but he's missing fewer bats than ever. His swinging strike rate has dipped below 10%. His first pitch strike rate is the worst it's been since before he left for Japan, his first time in the majors. I think he's a ticking time bomb. Maybe the Pirates aren't the best pick to trigger detonation. But those peripherals combined with the Reds offense against lefties has me comfortable backing the Pirates. Again, plus 105 to plus 110 range would be preferred, but I think if you get plus money on this, you're getting good value for the first 5 innings. I should also mention, to go along with my fading of Nick Martinez, you're getting under 17 and a half outs recorded is a prop I saw right before we started recording, and that's at plus money. I got Nick Martinez under 17 and a half outs recorded at plus 120 at Bet365, and I think that's a good bet as well.
As we look at the rest of your card, 2 picks each from Sean and Collin. Sean, let's stick in this Reds-Pirates game. You're looking at the total. Talk me through the pitching matchup and the overall struggles of some of these lineups and why you see value in under 8.5.
Yeah, I've got 2 more I added just this morning as well that we can get to at the end. But I'm actually a Nick Martinez truther. I think this guy is phenomenal. And since he joined the Reds rotation at the end of last year, he has a sub-3 ERA. He's got elite command. This is like, I don't even want to say a poor man's Zach Greinke because he's not a below average pitcher. This is a number 2 level starter based upon the metrics he's put up since the end of last season. Strikeout minus walk rate near 17% last year. His body ERA has been around 3.5 each of the past 2 seasons. Expected ERA sub 3.5 over the past 2 years. He was actually a little bit worse at the start of this year, was struggling with the command a little bit. It's come back severely in the past 4 starts, 4 consecutive quality outings. And this offense, this Pittsburgh offense, cannot hit righties or lefties. 74 WRC plus against righties, 68 against lefties. The reason I mentioned both splits here, Martinez has a plus changeup. So right-handed pitcher, effectively left-handed at times with that elite changeup, mixing in everything else, but does dot the fastball really well on the corners. And just has phenomenal command. His walk rate last year was near 3.5%. It's closer to 5% this season, but as I said, it was worse in April. He's gotten much more refined in May. The Pirates offense may not have O'Neal Cruz. It's possible. I think he would be back in there today. He did sit yesterday against the lefty, but he's dealing with a back issue. So even if he plays, O'Neal Cruz, the Pirates' best hitter, is less than 100%. Collin mentioned the lefty-righty splits for Cincinnati. I won't repeat that, but just worth noting the 20-point difference righty versus lefty there. And Bailey Falter, I couldn't really find a reason why he's pitching better this year. His expected ERA is around 3.7, but overall the stuff metrics, the underlying indicators, strikeout minus walk rate, basically identical to what he's done in recent seasons, but perhaps it is a defensive improvement that is just allowing him to pitch with a little bit more confidence. Both of these teams are much better defensively than they have been in recent years. In fact, the Reds defensively have been a bottom 5 team each of the past 5 seasons by both defensive runs saved and outs above average. I believe on average over those 5 seasons, they've ranked around 26th in defensive runs saved and 28th in OAA. This year, they're closer to 19th in DRS and 13th in OA. And the Pirates are an above average team by both of those metrics, where they were around 22nd last year. So I think both of these teams have made significant improvements defensively in 2025. I made this total around 7.6. I would bet the under 8 to minus 108, under 8.5 up to minus 120. And hopefully Falter and Martinez both pitch well. I do also show value with Collin on the Pirates. I made the line about plus 101. There's still a plus 115 out there. I'd probably bet Pittsburgh down to about plus 108, but since I'm already on the under, I might just roll ahead with that bet for the game.
Collin, for your 2 picks, I'm going to call this the Aaron Sorkin walk and talk portion of our pod. You've been firing on walkovers all season long, but you got to help me out with this first one here. Tarik Skubal over 0.5 walks at minus 180. I get that it's just, a single walk. We need 4 balls one time, but this guy has been a monster. He's issued 6 walks all season long. That's 9 starts and 54 innings worth of work and just 6 walks. So why pull the trigger at this price point?
Yeah, I'm really proud and honored to give out the stupidest bet in the history of this podcast. Tarik Skubal, you mentioned he's walked 6 batters all season long. I'll go even further than that for you, Mike. 3 of those 6 came in 1 start, and that 1 start was all the way back on April 2nd against Seattle. He walked 4 batters in his first 2 starts of the season. He has 0 walks in 5 of his 9 starts this year. He's walked 2 batters in his last 7 starts. So yeah, this is kind of a zag, and I'm going to zag on my other walk prop as well. The Cardinals have guys who will walk. Lars Nootbaar, Ivan Herrera, Nolan Arenado, Wilson Contreras, Mason Wynn, all have double-digit walk rates against lefties. As a team, the Cardinals are 8th best at taking walks against lefties at 10.1%. He's got to walk guys at some point. His walk rate is low for his entire career. This year, it's lower than it's ever been. Not by an extreme degree, but again, we're just looking at 1 walk here. Minus 180 seems like a good price point against a patient Cardinals offense. So I'll pull the trigger here. I might just be too much of a Tigers hater. I'll be upfront about this. Again, dumbest bet of all time. Tail me at your own peril. But I think Tarik Skubal put someone on base for free tonight.
All right, I like the counterbalance with this next one. We're back to a normal run-of-the-mill walkover with Michael Lorenzen. He was a walk ATM in April, walking 13 batters across his 6 starts in that month. But lately, he's really settled in. He's issued just 2 free passes across his last 2 starts. Who do you think's the real Lorenzen? Like the one who was, struggling to find the zone earlier in the season, or the one who's been locked in recent starts?
Yeah, it's 2 walks actually in his last 3 starts, I think. He had 1, 0, and 1 over his last 3 starts and 17 strikeouts in that span. Against some decent offenses, too. The Red Sox, Astros, Orioles, whatever you want to think about them. And this is a great opportunity to zag here. His walk rate right now for the entire season is significantly lower than his career rate. We have seen a long enough and significant enough body of work from Lorenzen to expect more of what he's shown throughout his career than what he's shown so far this year. And he's facing one of the most patient offenses in baseball against right-handed pitching in the San Francisco Giants. So again, I think this is a good opportunity where the books are giving us a little bit of better value based on the fact that he hasn't walked 2 batters in a game in a couple of starts. So over 1.5 walks at minus 180, I think is good value. And since we're in the interest of parlays here, whenever there's an opportunity, I should point out that if you parlay Skubal's over, Lorenzen's over at Bet365, that pays out about plus 141.
Before we get to Neiffer's dingers, 3 more on Sean's card. Let's go to West Sacramento. Last night, the Angels and A's scored just 7 runs, but they left 13 on base between the 2 of them, and they scattered 15 hits. So back to the well here, Sean. It can't hurt that Kyle Hendricks is on the mound. This has got to be his last go-around in the bigs. This stint with the Angels rotation has not worked out because he essentially has been a home run derby pitcher. He's given up a dinger in 6 straight starts. You see more balls flying out of the ballpark here in this matchup.
Yeah, as Collin said, we said the same thing about Patrick Corbin last year, though. There's no way this guy comes back for another season. And then when he was mixing in the cutter at the end of the year, I think put in our Action Network Slack, the Red Sox are 100% signing Corbin this offseason because the Red Sox had moved away from the fastballs. They did basically exactly what Corbin did to transform himself in season. Of course, Corbin got another job. Unless Kyle Hendricks starts throwing a knuckleball, I don't really see how he gets another job. He's too much of a soft tosser. throwing softer than ever before. The metrics are worse than they ever have been. But yeah, I pointed out this series yesterday, the bullpens, the defense is going to lead to extra run scoring. Hopefully, it did not last night. These teams had 6 runs. I think it was a 4-2 game through 3 innings, and then everybody stopped scoring. But A's 30th by both defensive runs saved and outs above average. The Angels 27th and 17th, and 2 bottom 5 bullpens, essentially bottom 5 bullpens by most key performance indicators. I made this total about 10.6 tonight. I bet the over 10 up to minus 115. There is only one book that has a minus 115 out there. Everybody else has moved to minus 120 or higher. So don't want to talk too much about this game, but if you can get 10 at minus 115, I would bet the over. I do like Garrett Hoagland, but I do not like Kyle Hendricks. So maybe A's team total over, could be an alternative way of going about that. I'm just going to play the over 10. The Rockies over 10.5 had the under last night, was 3-1 through 6 innings. And then, of course, the Phillies blitzed it against the Rockies bullpen late. Pretty similar weather to yesterday with that breeze blowing in, but it's actually going to turn to more of a cross breeze by the midpoint of the game. And it's going to be a little bit warmer than it was yesterday, too. We've got another guy who's an absolute dumpster fire on the mound here at Antonio Sensatello, been one of my favorite pitchers to bet against the entire time he's been in the bigs, but even this year, at a significant step down from where he's been previously. Career 7.8% strikeout minus walk rate for Sensatella, 4.3% this season. He's an ERA of 6.4. He's an expected ERA of 7.4, 87 stuff plus, bot ERA near 5, which is about as high as that gets, a hard hit rate near 50%, and a barrel rate north of 10% for each of the past 3 years. The Rockies also used their 2 best relief pitchers last night in that loss, and the Phillies lost Jose Alvarado to PED suspension the other day. So I think these bullpens are a little bit weakened relative to what their season-long metrics might indicate. Over 10.5 in Colorado, up to about minus 120. And then lastly, the lone money line bet I have so far on this slate, the Toronto Blue Jays at plus 110 against the Padres. I make this game about minus 110, a pick 'em for the Blue Jays. So anything even money or better on Toronto is a bet for me. I wrote up Chris Bassett last week, but he's inducing a lot more whiffs and chase this year. His walk rate is down half of what it was last year, 4.5%, 9.2% last year. His strikeout rate is up to a career high of 25%. Outside swing rate up from 25% career to 33%. Swinging strike rate up from 9% to 11%. He's throwing to much better locations. You look at the location plus metrics throughout his career and the expected ERA that tracks alongside of them. His final season in Oakland, his first season with the Mets, location plus ratings of 103 and 104, expected ERA marks of around 3.5. Last two seasons prior to this with the Blue Jays, location plus marks 97, 99. Expected ERA climbed over 4, 4.04, 4.5. This year, he's back up to a 105 location plus rating. That expected ERA has gone down to 3.2, and you see all of the other stuff going up with it in terms of the swing and miss and the chase. So I think we're seeing a career best Chris Bassett right now. Jays at even money or better, make the minus 110.
Sean, just a quick question there. Dylan Cease has certainly settled in after, one rough outing last month where he gave up 9 earned. In his last 2 starts, 19 Ks, basically giving the Padres what they were expecting out of him and, essentially returning to an ace of the rotation kind of, output. With that being said, and you being on the Blue Jays here, do you think there's value in potentially leaving your money on the sidelines, maybe getting 3 or 4 good innings out of Cease and getting a better live number on the Jays?
It's possible, but I think the Padres still have a pretty significant bullpen advantage in a tight game. So I don't really think there's a big difference necessarily between Cease versus Bassett as compared to Padres bullpen versus Blue Jays bullpen. In fact, I might even prefer them. Not looking at the model currently. I don't know where I have the first 5 projected relative to the full game, but I might even prefer the pitching advantage for the Padres over the final 4 as compared to the first 5. So I would play it per game. I wouldn't wait for a live bet. There's teams where I would consider live bets. Yeah, actually, I make the first 5 line exactly even money. I make the full game line minus 110. So if anything, I would actually would lean towards what you're saying because I do make the Jays, 2% bigger for the full game than for the first 5. So, like, in theory, yes, based on the number I have on paper, but in actuality, probably not, just because if it's a tight game and you're getting to that point where you would lie bet it, right? If you're down a run, that means the Padres A relievers are coming in. If it's tied, it means the Padres A relievers are coming in. So you'd hope the Jays can get out to a lead against Cease, and then they're playing from ahead, and the Padres bring in their slightly lesser pitchers.
As promised, it's time for Grant Neiffer from Scores and Odds to provide us with some home run bets for Tuesday's slate.
All right, thanks, Mike. It's Dinger Tuesday. That means we got a 50% profit boost over on FanDuel, and I got some good ones today. Let's get right into it. O'Neal Cruz to hit a home run. You can get this at plus 520 over at FanDuel. Now, Cruz, weather could be a problem here. May potentially end up being a delay, maybe a postponement. If it's postponed, no big deal. Just means it's no bet. But if this game ends up playing, it's a fantastic price on Cruz Day. It gets matchup versus Martinez. Martinez been above average matchup for lefty power in his career, giving up 1.28 home runs per 9. But the big thing about him is he has a 40% fly ball rate. Cruz, whenever he hits the ball, is absolutely hammered. Some of the best bat speed, exit velocity, all the advanced metrics you can possibly imagine. He is near the top of the league in all of them. Dude hits the ball hard. So if it gets up in the air with Martinez's 40% fly ball rate, decent chance it leads to the yard, even if it is 65 degrees outside. Next up, we got Junior Caminero. He is good. He is very good. And I really like him this year, and I really like his odds today. You can get him at around plus 450 at different spots, plus 420 over at FanDuel, and he gets a matchup versus a guy who's made one appearance in the majors so far in his career, going up against Walter. He has the platoon split going up against the lefty. Walter, again, not a huge sample size in the major, but he grades out as a above average matchup for righty power. The weather over in Tampa Bay is great with temps in the high 80s, high humidity, 8 miles an hour wind blowing out, and then that minor league ballpark. It is very wind receptive, and it's a good ballpark overall for power. So Junior in a great spot with great weather. Plus 420 is too low, and if you can get him at plus 450 somewhere else without the FanDuel boost, that's great. Lastly, Jackson Merrill, guy is fantastic and in a fantastic spot. Odds are at plus 450 going up against Bassett. Bassett started out the year as one of the best pitchers in the league, has really fallen off over his last 4 starts, giving up 6 bombs in that 4-game span. Historically, he's been an incredible matchup for lefty power, giving up around 1.45 home runs per 9 in his career to lefties, including 1.5 last year and over 2 the prior year. He's going back to his old ways, which makes this an incredible spot for all the lefties in the lineup, but specifically Jackson Merrill at plus 450 is far too high of odds. Parlay all these together and you get plus 226,000, which is 264 to 1 odds. I love it today. That's what I'm using my boost on. I'm out of here. Like it.
That'll do it for today's episode of Payoff Pitch. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to tail some of the bets that you heard from Sean, from Collin, from Grant, look in the episode description. You're going to be able to find the quick slip links there. And don't forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app and leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to the podcast. Also, check out the Action Network Discord. There's a link in the episode description as well to be able to reroute you in that direction. We'll be back on Friday with more Major League Baseball best bets, underdogs, and the rest of Sean's card. We'll also have Yerfy Nerfies from Billy Ward to consider. For Sean Zerillo and Collin Whitchurch, I'm Mike Calabrese. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. And as always, best of luck with all your bets.